pjnet.tv. It is 9:30 on the East Coast of the United States. Welcome back to part 2. Our bumper is running. We are recording this for quality control purposes and training purposes, of course. Streaming to Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube simultaneously. That means all at the same time. Counting down to Studio 20, starting now. Well, welcome back to pjnet.tv. I'm your host, Coach Brasic. If you are here, as you normally would be on Wednesday evening at this time, to see Michelle Medlock Adams, well, you're not going to. And it's her fault. She has decided that you would rather see the gentleman who is standing by in our green room, who is well known to Michelle. In fact, do you actually call her Michelle?
I tried to. I for a long time called her Miss Adams, and then she said, "Oh, you need to stop that."
Okay.
Michelle.
You know what her high school friends call her?
Missy.
Missy.
Yeah.
It is. Baron, how do you know Michelle?
Well, I actually a few years ago I was starting with this Emma Gets Braces book, and I started on another project, and then I talked to a couple of my friends and just told them that I was wanting to write a book. And it was actually Jamie Medlock is her name. She's a dear friend of mine that I've known since we were probably 6 years old. And she said, you know what, you need to get a hold of Michelle Medlock Adams. And so one thing led to another, and I got a hold of her. And Michelle, she's been just the biggest help to me ever since I got a hold of her. She's been very inspirational and helpful, and helped me find an agent actually a year or two ago. And just, again, one thing led to another. We talked a few times, and she told me, I think it was 2 or 3 years ago, she said, I guarantee you, if you write a book about faith and freedom, that you'll get it published and that you'll be able to get an agent. And so that's what I did. I wrote which is not this book that's showing up on the screen. But
all right, well, let's switch gears. Let's go to that book, The Faith of July.
Yeah, we did The Faith of July, and it's about faith and freedom, basically how God kind of played a role with the founding fathers and founding our country, in a kind of a rhyming book that takes place back around the time of 1776, when we were in the war for our country's freedom. And with faith and freedom, this is what I came up with, and it wasn't without her inspiration to get it done. And so I owe a lot to her and helping me kind of get that ball rolling. And now I've got a whole bunch of other books that I have written, but we're still waiting to get published, but they're in the docket.
Okay, so you took Michelle's advice on faith and freedom, a topic you're fond of, well acquainted with, or you just followed her advice?
You know what? I honestly just followed her advice. I would consider myself more of kind of a, I don't know if quirky is the word, but just more of a fantastical kind of thinker. I like to just make stuff up. So basing this off of true events, I actually kind of took me out of my comfort zone. Growing up, I've always played video games and read books about, Lord of the Rings and magic and video games where they're, fighting the bad guys and whatnot. So that's kind of where my inspiration used to come from. But and I had written the Emma Gets Braces book 4 years ago, which that actually comes from my dental background. And right now I've got books written from the, crazy magic stuff to the kind of realistic. I've got a novel that I've written that we're trying to get published that's focused a lot on chemistry, which is pretty neat, really kind of how it all works together. And then my next book that I'm getting ready to work on is actually based on a true story about high school basketball in Indiana. Kind of, if you think about the movie Hoosiers, it's kind of like that, like a pseudo sequel, if you will.
Now, professionally, you are an orthodontist, right?
I am. Yes.
Do your clients know about your adolescent tendencies to game and do?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. So we actually, in our Seymour office, we have a fully functional 80s style arcade with the glowing carpet and the black lights and, Ninja Turtles games in there. We got Pac-Man.
Pac-Man, really?
Oh yeah, pinball. And so they're very well aware. And anytime I get somebody that comes in, they want to talk about video games, it's usually hard to get me to shut up because I'll just keep talking about it with
Okay, so does that help you connect with your patient?
absolutely.
It does?
Yeah. I feel still like I'm a teenager at heart, even though I'm 37. I still feel like I'm 17 on the inside. So it's really, really easy for me to connect with my patient base.
Well, you're old enough to shave, even though you hadn't done so lately. But that's all right.
Yeah.
Um, I remember getting braces, and it was a traumatic experience for me.
Oh no.
Well, and I thought I'd share it with you because you've probably heard and seen so much. But first of all, I was in denial. That I needed it. I didn't want to go through that.
Yeah.
And I had to have like four teeth removed. Had to have. I had an overbite, so you got to have somewhere for the teeth to go.
Yeah.
That was not a whole lot of fun. And back then, I guess they still do it this way. They had, my orthodontist called it, you wearing your rubbers? Oh, they're elastic. They're rubber bands, folks.
What they call them that.
But I had to hook one back here and then one up here, and
Yeah.
and then two going from the back to the front. So I had four rubber bands in my mouth all the time.
Yeah.
It was very traumatic. Now, I didn't like it, and when I went to play football, I had to get a special mouthpiece to
Yeah.
protect my lips from being punctured by the appliances.
Yeah.
Uh, is it that traumatic for most people?
No, I don't think so. Every once in a while you'll get somebody who's just deathly afraid of a dentist or, the white coat syndrome that you have. And, there's not really a whole lot you can do about that. I mean, if they had a traumatic experience in the past, that kind of stinks. And I just try my best to reassure them that it's not going to be that way with us. Um, every once in a while you will have somebody who just goes through a lot, happen to have teeth pulled or something like that. I wouldn't say that that's the vast majority of cases by any means, but I get a lot of kids actually they get their braces in junior high or high school, and then it's sending me emails or they're having their parents call when they're a senior in high school saying, you know what, I enjoyed having braces. I'd like to be an orthodontist these days. And we actually have two interns right now of people who had braces with me and they're wanting to be orthodontists. So they come to our office every day and shadow. And I'm trying to think how many, we got one, two, three, I think four of my employees actually got braces with me.
Hmm.
So I didn't scare them away too much, I guess. So they enjoyed it enough that they thought it was neat and sent in resumes a couple of years later. And here they are, and they're rock stars. I work with some really, really awesome ladies.
This was back in the early 70s. Has the technology and the state of the art advanced
Oh,
significantly?
yeah. I actually just had this conversation today with somebody. The crazy thing is, and you wouldn't think it, but the technology in orthodontics is advancing almost like cell phones. It just seems like
Really?
every couple of years there's something new. And I mean, right now we're getting into using scanners, which are they're basically like digital cameras for your teeth. That when you hold it in somebody's mouth, it takes just boom, 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 just hundreds and hundreds of pictures
Mm-hmm.
that then creates a digital image on the
Right.
computer screen. So you have
Mm-hmm.
a digital model of
Right.
that person's teeth that
Understood.
you
Yeah,
can use.
in 3D now.
Yes, and then from that, then you can do 3D printing, which
Mm-hmm.
has kind of changed the game. And we don't have a 3D printer yet in our office, but we're probably going to be getting one here really soon. And I mean, there's just all kinds of things. Used to back in the good old days, they used to have those metal bands, like metal rings, that they had to wrap around every single tooth.
That's
Now,
what I had, and it had a little brace bracket on the front that the wire ran through, and then he'd
yeah,
torque them things down in the back, and your whole mouth would. Oh, it
yeah,
was lousy.
yeah. So now we can just glue tiny little brackets just right on the front surface of the teeth, and they got silver looking brackets. They got the gold ones now, which are kind of neat. They've got clear ones, and then of course now we got Invisalign and 3M Clarity aligners, which have kind of changed the whole game too. So and who knows what's going to happen 10 years from now?
Well, I learned this. Humans, are we unique in that our teeth only move forward?
Well, what do you mean that they only move forward?
If you
Like,
pull a tooth,
yeah,
okay, the gap's going to close,
yeah,
but your teeth are going to always move forward. Now, see, sharks, on the other hand, they grow every which way.
yeah. Well, I don't know that they necessarily always move forward. If you have a tooth here and a tooth here, say you had an extraction right here in the middle,
Hmm.
typically what tends to happen is that those teeth kind of bend together like this. You'll see
Okay.
that collapse in. Now, the bottom jawbone right here in the front, one common misconception is that the wisdom teeth actually push all of your teeth forward and cause them to get crowded later in life. But that's actually not what happens. What happens is your jawbone right here in the front on the lower tends to kind of collapse
Hmm.
over the years. And sometimes that might take decades for that to cause any kind of visible effect. But that's a big reason why we need to wear retainers, because that bone is constantly changing and kind of collapsing in. So if you wear a retainer, basically it holds everything up like this and keeps the teeth straight.
Now the picture, the cover here that I'm looking at, Emma gets braces. I notice that Emma looks 12-ish, kind of.
Yes. Yeah, yeah, that's a good guess.
Uh, Darker skinned, happy,
Yeah.
inspired by a real patient.
Actually, no. She's just, I mean, just kind of represents all patients, really. Um, the curly hair, the long curly hair comes from my wife. She is a big fan of hairography, they call it. You know, she was actually a Colts cheerleader 10 years ago. So, you
Huh?
know, all the hairsprays and curling your hair. And, you know, when she was doing the Colt stuff, like whipping her hair. And our daughter, actually, our oldest daughter now has long curly hair like Emma does. And so, all of that kind of played an inspiration in there. My wife told me her hair has to be cute for sure. So we tried to do what we could. And that actually went through a lot of drafts on her hair in trying to make it cute, so to speak.
Well, it had to pass that test, you know, because
Yeah, absolutely.
or it would be a miserable existence for sure.
Yeah.
Uh, would would a child not getting braces gain anything by a book like this?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, not only did we try to just make it fun, and it's a rhyming book, so some of the younger kids, you know, age 6, 7, 8, who might not be ready for braces, but still might need to see an orthodontist just for a checkup, just to see if everything's okay. They might be scared to death. So if they see this book, say in our waiting room, or if somebody gets it for them beforehand, they can kind of see, oh yeah, braces can be fun. You know, we got all these bright colors, and it's actually an ABC book, and the original title was the ABCs of braces, and then
Hmm.
the ABCs of orthodontics, and then we just changed it to Emma gets braces. But it follows the alphabet, and every letter of the alphabet, starting with appointment for A, B's for braces,
I see.
C's for crowning. It just kind of jumps along with each of those letters, and it rhymes all the way through. It's kind of got a little bit of a story, just kind of following Emma getting the braces, you know, but it was more about the ABCs, and then the story part was kind of secondary.
Is it true that you need braces because you sucked your thumb too long?
You can, yeah. Typically, if you think about having a thumb or a pacifier in your mouth, that pressure can
Hmm.
cause your top front teeth to kind of start flaring forward,
Right.
and that pressure from sucking in
Uh huh.
actually can cause your back teeth to actually go in a little bit, so it can cause your
Oh.
upper jaw to be kind of skinny and V-shaped like this. So then you can go in later with braces to fix that, which is why we always really encourage parents to try to get their kids to stop sucking their thumb at a pretty young age. And they say, according to the research, if you stop by about age 5, 6, or 7, that typically it can kind of cure itself, and your jaws can kind of rebound. Um, but even still, sometimes you still need to go in with some kind of orthodontic intervention to help fix it.
Well, I used to, I didn't suck my thumb. I sucked these two fingers, and I
Yeah.
mean I mean my front teeth were like when I closed my
Oh,
mouth, my oh yeah, it was bad.
yeah.
I needed braces, no doubt, but actually, as it, as I got a little older, and I don't remember how many years, but it was a long time. But I was, going through puberty, and my orthodontist was actually an avid duck hunter. So we bonded did some male bonding, and he was able to, because I just hated it. I just hated going there. I hated, you know, brush your teeth. I mean, all the time, every time
Yeah.
you couldn't clean your teeth. I mean, you just couldn't. There was so much hardware in there. It was. It's funny. The previous guest, I had a bad experience riding a horse. Folks, I really had a pretty good overall childhood. Okay, I really did. I didn't turn out this way because of my bad childhood. It's things I learned later that messed me up. Okay, is the just professionally, how has COVID impacted your livelihood?
Um, Well, I mean, as far as staying busy, it's actually not really hurt us too much. Now, when COVID was kind of first becoming a thing back in what would that have been March, April-ish
Hmm.
of last year,
Hmm.
it hit us pretty good just because of all the unknowns. We
Hmm.
didn't really know, like, should we have different protective gear? Do we need to completely shut down our office? So we just followed the CDC's guidelines and recommendations from the dental organizations. We actually did shut down our office completely for about 2 months, and we couldn't see anybody. And as you may have remembered from having braces, you're going to have some emergencies with put wires sticking into your cheek, and
Hmm.
you're going to have some of the braces break off that need fixed. And I mean, we couldn't really see or do anything for any of those people besides tell them to go get some wax and put it on there. So I mean, me as somebody who really worries about that kind of stuff, I was nervous about, feeling like I was neglecting my patients, and I hated it. I hated that part of it. And then after the fact, we had some shortages with gloves and masks and
Right.
that we had to fight through. Thankfully, we had a pretty good stock built up from before,
Really.
so it didn't really hurt us too much. But there were a lot of offices that couldn't open because they didn't
Yeah.
have gloves or masks,
Yeah.
which is just crazy. And then we had to kind of change our protective gear a little bit as well. I mean, we wore the face shields that
Right.
covered our entire head and face. And I mean, there were some offices that looked like they were straight up wearing hazmat suits. I think that in hindsight was a little bit overkill, but again, at the time we didn't know. We didn't know what to do. I didn't know, is this
Well,
the bubonic plague coming or what?
yeah. Err on the
So
side of
I think
safety.
the majority of it. I feel like it's at least in our office with the effects of it. Here and there we still have a patient or somebody who might have to cancel because they or a family member has gotten COVID. But I'm a glass half full kind of guy. I feel like I'm hopeful and optimistic that things are slowing down and that things are going to get a lot better.
You, by the way, folks, Michelle, is she still in our? She is. She's so we're being watched,
I'm
sir.
sure.
Uh, in the haste to make the arrangements to get all this put together for a first-time guest, you sent me two book covers. Is that it? You done?
Those are the two that I have published right now. I do have a couple that I'm really, really excited about. One of them, my agent has gotten several nibbles on. But we've been told by a couple publishers that I just don't have a big enough platform yet. So I need some more
Yeah.
Facebook followers and Twitter followers and whatnot. But the one I'm really excited about is actually called What the Toilet Paper Said to the Toothbrush. And so if you can only imagine what toilet paper would say to a toothbrush, I basically wrote a whole book about it, about a really upset toothbrush. And it's got a good moral at the end of the book, kind of how the grass isn't always greener on the other side. And I think it's funny, it's charming, it's colorful. I got my niece actually has helped do a couple of preliminary illustrations on it. And the exciting part about it is I've actually got some support from Procter and Gamble that they said that I could use their products in the book. So Old Spice deodorant, Crest, Oral-B toothbrush, toothpaste products. But we're still just looking for that publisher that's ready to take it on. But I'm confident we'll be able to get it at some point.
You've got a good agent.
Yeah, he's a pretty cool guy.
I was just teeing it up for you to say nice things about Dell because he's the regular
Oh,
guest.
wait, wow, okay. Wow, what do you want me to say about him? I mean, heck, I feel like every time I talk to him on the phone, it's
Mhm.
hard getting us to stop talking because he and I, we have a lot in common. He's so
Mhm.
easy to talk to. He's a go-getter, and
He is.
yeah, like you said, I'm confident that he'll be able to sell my books because he's pretty relentless and doesn't give up. You know, if he doesn't hear from somebody,
He's a machine. He is a
keeps
machine.
going, keeps going. He
Yeah.
is a machine.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm jealous of him because I feel like every couple weeks he's doing a new book signing or he's got a new book coming out of his own that he's publishing, and that's kind of what I say whenever I grow up. That's what I want to be. I want to be like Michelle and Dell.
Well, those are good role models, I believe. And
Yeah.
well, I'm really excited to hear that Procter and Gamble has come on board now. That's great. What would be better is if they would pay you to put their products in your books, but maybe that's coming. I know you're not a dentist, but I always ask this question when I see a dentist. Maybe you talk to dentists. Maybe you can tell me.
Well, I am a dentist actually. To
You
become
are?
an orthodontist, you have to become a dentist first,
Oh yeah.
and then so like kind of like a cardiologist, you got to go to med school first, and then you go to
Oh.
residency. So
Oh.
I went
Okay.
to 4 years
Well
of dental
then.
school.
All
I
right. Good. Because
and,
we were always taught, that sugary stuff, bad, bad,
yeah,
bad, bad. True or
it is
false?
bad. It's what?
True or false? Sugar is
Oh,
just
it's
bad for your teeth.
absolutely bad. Do you want me to tell you what I tell kids why it's bad for you?
Please do,
So
because I'm going to shoot a hole in it, but go ahead.
yeah. So basically, your mouth is full of bacteria, and there's no
Right.
ifs, ands, and buts about it. You cannot get rid of that bacteria. You
And that's a
can
good thing,
decrease it.
by the way.
Sure, it is. Yep. So you have good bacteria in your mouth. Now, when you introduce sugary foods into your mouth, whether it's candy or a ding
Soda.
dong or
Hmm.
a ho ho or whatever, if you're eating that stuff, those simple sugars, the bacteria just thrive on eating it, and bacteria literally poop acid in your mouth, and
Hmm.
that acidic poop just sits on your teeth. And over time, it's not like an acid that you see on a movie, where you pour it out on a
Hmm.
table and it starts fizzing. It's a weaker acid, but over a couple of weeks, if that acid just keeps sitting on your tooth, it creates a hole, and that's a cavity. So
Okay.
just think about that sugary food causing poop on your teeth.
Yeah. Well, I use Splenda. Uh,
Yeah.
so why then do they make toothpaste out of sugar?
Well, the xylitols and those kinds of sugars are actually not broken down by the bacteria.
Right. If it
So
ends in OL, okay. If it ends in
yes,
OL, it's
alcohol
an
from sugar.
alcohol from sugar usually, and that's not the same chemically as sugar. But I didn't know that. Well, I won't be able to sleep tonight. It's like what's what is going on inside my mouth? Why do some people drool when they sleep? Is that a dental
Oh,
problem, or is that something that you see a psychologist about?
no, I mean, good salivary glands, I guess. I mean, it's not a bad thing. I don't think it's harmful for you.
Well,
Typically, when you fall asleep, the reason you have bad breath is because your salivary glands shut down for the night.
oh
So
yeah,
that bacteria just accumulates in your mouth because your saliva is not able to wash it out and you swallow it. And so I guess if there's somebody that drools, their salivary glands are still working, and saliva
uh,
is actually very good for your teeth. So think of it as a good thing, I guess.
yeah. Well, wake up in a mop for a pillow. It's,
Yeah.
hey, honey, your hair's messed up. Well, no, it's not my hair. It's the whole pillow's wet. Anyway, what a mess. Okay, so all right. Well, the next time we see you, which Michelle may give you more than 2 hours of notice next time. You never know.
Yeah.
You never know. Where do you hope to be a year from now? What does life look like for a young man like yourself?
Oh, well, my goal right now, first off, we're building a house. So I hope that our house is built and we're settled in there. It's such a stressful experience, but it's good. But aside from that, from the business point of view, I would really, really like to have help. So I'm running two orthodontics offices now, one in Seymour and one in Bloomington. And I would like to have another orthodontist come along that can help take off some of that load. And if they do, then that can give me a little bit more time to focus on all the million other things that I would like to do, such as reading and writing books, hanging out with family. I
Gaming.
recently,
Yeah.
gaming, exactly. Within the last year, I've actually got invited to be a deacon at our local church, and so, being able to spend a little bit more time doing that. We've got a new youth minister at the church too, so just being able to be a little bit more involved is where I would like to be next year.
That would be a real blessing to have your. Okay, I'm getting some smart aleck remarks from the chat room. To ask you another question before we leave, what
Okay.
are the effects of tobacco use?
Well, there are a lot.
Well, we've
I'll
got
just sum
smoking
them.
and we've got orally used products. There's a difference.
Yeah. Well, there is a bit of a difference, but for the most part, they are all bad. And even vaping. So I get a lot of teenagers say, well, I just vape. That's, it's vaping safe. It is not safe. Vaping is not safe. We're starting to get some more conclusive evidence now that they all basically can cause oral and throat cancer. If you use tobacco products in combination with alcohol, it increases your risk of getting any kind of cancer like that. The heat, in addition to the chemicals from smoking, is a really bad combination. And if you're chewing or using the little pouches, the abrasiveness can cause some pretty
Right.
severe gum and bone damage. So I mean, I could go on and on, but it's all very bad for you.
Well, I was in for my checkup, and the hygienist is in there, and she's giving me the lecture saying, "See this your cheek, how it's all leathery and all that."
Yeah.
And the dentist comes in and said, "No, no, no. He's from Monticello. They all chew tobacco over there." He
Yeah.
said you got to tell them to chew on the other side. He said that's the best you can do. Just kind of rotate back and forth.
Yeah.
Uh,
I mean, we can't force you to quit. So if you're going to do it, then he's right. You might as
Well,
well rotate it around.
he and I had been hunting partners, and he knows no one wants to be around me if I don't have tobacco. It's
Yeah.
just, if I were to run out, people would get it for me. It
Yeah.
would.
Yeah.
It's great, but no, it sounds great, Baron. I hope maybe we can come back. When you get that house built, and get all your deacon stuff handled, and for a man of your age to be invited into an office of that high responsibility is commendable, and we you are the man. There's many that you have wisdom beyond your years, sir, and I can say that because I'm a lot older than you are. Okay. But anyway, thanks for sharing with us, and we'll just come back when you get that house built. How about it?
All right. Well, I appreciate it very much. Thank you so
All
much
right.
for having me. And thanks again to Michelle for inviting me on.
All right. Thank you, Baron. Well, folks, there we see. Now the camera's not froze up. You are directly above my head. I've got that camera aimed just right so that you can't see the balding spot back there. Okay? That's the way we do it. That is the Eagle's Nest, the broadcast facilities from which this program originates. And that's going to be it for tonight. But you know what? We'll be back tomorrow night, and we hope you'll come join us. Before you come back, I'm going to give you a couple of questions to ponder, to pontificate. But they are serious. What is the boldest thing that you've ever done for Jesus Christ? And how long ago was that? And I hope that none of us will be satisfied with either answer.